Hey everyone, it's me, Rami Marks, your Tangled Yogi out here in Northern California. Welcome to the Year of the Rabbit Zentangle inspired class. I'm so excited to bring you this class today. We're going to have so much fun. So let's talk about the things that we're going to be using for class. I'm going to be working with a Micron PN pen, a white gel pen. I happen to have the Mizu Love in my hand, but you could use a Signo or the Sakura. I'm going to be working with a graphite pencil for my string, and for some shading I'm going to be using a tortillon. If you don't have a tortillon, just grab a Q-tip and that will work fine for blending. I'm also going to be working on the Genesis tile from the Tangled Yogi shop here, and you can pick those up at the Tangled Yogi shop if you're interested. I love this paper because it's super smooth and it receives color pencil really well. With that said, let's get started with the Year of the Rabbit. Okay, so before we get started with our Zentangle practice, I like to take a moment to get centered and get ready to create. So let's go ahead and take a comfortable seated position here, however that works for you today. Allow your feet to touch down onto the floor. Let your hands rest down in your lap. Allow your spine to grow comfortably tall. And just for a moment here, if you're okay with it, allow your eyes to close for a moment. Taking a moment to soften through the body here, relaxing in the chest and the belly, the hips and the thighs, the knees and the calves, the ankles and the feet. Relaxing through the shoulders and the arms, all the way through the wrists and the hands. And in your own timing here, allowing your attention to fall onto your breath. And just for a moment noticing on the inhalation how the body expands with breath. And on the exhalation how the body relaxes and releases. As you inhale through the nose, feel the body expand. And as you exhale through the mouth, feel the body relax. Inhaling and expanding with breath. Exhaling and relaxing and releasing. And one more time, inhaling and exhaling. And as we rest here just for a moment with the breath, I'd like to share with you a quote from Rumi, the poet Rumi, and he says, "Let yourself be silently drawn by the strange pull of what you really love. It will not lead you astray." And what I love about this quote is the Year of the Rabbit is really a time of observation and allowing yourself to observe the things that make you happy, the things that bring you joy. They will not lead you astray. And I hope that Zentangle is one of those things that brings you joy. So taking one more deep breath right here and letting it go with a sigh. And when you're ready, wiggling in your fingertips and toes and gently blinking the eyes open. And let's get ready to practice some Zentangle. So let's begin by putting in our borders for this piece. You can see that I'm working with a graphite pencil, and I'm just going to start by bringing my 4 dots into the corners here. This is the traditional Zentangle way to start, and it's a really nice way to divide a piece and give it a frame, which is lovely. You can see that I'm starting to connect my dots here. And I'm just turning my tile so that I have the easiest way to create that border. So you can see there are my 4 corners here. Go ahead and do yours. And then when we come back, we're going to start to build a little bit more into the center. Okay, so let's begin, and we're going to start by doing things the regular old-fashioned Zentangle way. We're going to start to bring our dots into our corners here. So you can see that I'm going to have a really narrow border for this particular piece. So I'm going to come in and I'm just going to start to connect my dots. And I'm working with a graphite pencil, as you can see. And whenever we're creating in the Zentangle way, it's always nice to have a border, but sometimes we don't. But for this particular class, we will. Okay? Just connecting my dots, and you can see that I'm going nice and slow, helps me to keep my hand steady, but we're not looking for perfection here, so really cut yourself some slack, okay? So with that said, I'm going to come to the middle of each line here, and I'm going to put a little dot, and we're going to connect the lines again, and this is going to help me to divide the space. So you can see that I'm just coming through and dividing the space, and I'll go again, and you can see that my lines are a little bit off. That's okay. I'm just looking for an idea of where center is, so that when I hold this up nice and close, you can see there's the division. I'm going to come in with a coin here, and I'm using a quarter to make a circle for the center of my piece here, and you're just going to see me trace my quarter, and I'm just moving my hand to make it work. And then there is my circle right there in the middle, pretty close to center, and that's really what I'm looking for. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and when we come back, we're going to continue to build our string. So I'm going to continue to build the string here, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a really narrow aura right around this circle here, and you're going to see me that I'm going to take it in half here, just because I find it easier to steady my hand when I'm going in half instead of having to do a full circle. Okay, so you can see it's slightly off, but I'm working in pencil, so it really doesn't matter. I can go in there and make it a little bit wider if that's what I want. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start to continue to build the string, and so I'm going to stay in pencil for that, and I'm going to come up to a little bit past the midpoint on each of these lines that are dividing the space here. So you can see that I'm just coming up a little bit past midpoint here, and I'm going to make these leaf-like shapes or petals that are going to come right off of the piece here. So I'm just going to turn my tile and do the same thing, and you'll notice that I'm leaving space in between the leaves here. So there's a little bit of space here in between the leaves. This one's a little bit high, so I'm just going to bring it down a little bit. And I'm just turning the tile and making it work for my hands here. So you can see there I've got those 4 petals that I'm looking for. So go ahead and finish up yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to continue to build the string. So you'll notice that I've got this square here and I've got this square here. It's all divided in the spaces. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come to the midway point at the top of each of these, and I'm going to use those as a marker for how I can divide the space. So watch what's going to happen here. I'm just going to come from this point and connect to my petal. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do an aura of that line. And I'm going to let it come down right before I get to the circle and stop. Now you'll notice that I'm just going to turn my tile counterclockwise here. I'm going to come to the midpoint in this square right here, and I'm just going to make a little dot. And then I'm going to come down just like we just did and connect to this particular line that's right here. And then once again, I'm going to aura it, and I'm going to pause right there. Now once I have that, I'm going to go to the next one and do the same. So here I am coming in, and I'm going to go ahead and just come down and connect. And then I'm going to come in and do an aura and pause. and then I'll go to the last one. So here I am making a little dot right before the midpoint here, coming down and connect, and then one more time creating an aura, and I pause. Once I have that, I'm going to go through on the other side and start to do the same thing, but I'm going to go in the reverse direction, and we're going to do something called a halibah, which is where you go under a line. So I'm going to come over here right to the midpoint, and I'm going to take this line and start to connect it. Now notice that if I continued, it would come down and reach the rest of this petal. So I'm just going to come in right next to it and create an aura, and I'm going to let it drop down, and it's going to connect. See how that connected there? Pretty easy peasy. So here we go again. We're turning the tile counterclockwise, and we're going to come to this point right over here in this square. You can see I've already got the middle point ready to go, and I'm just coming down and connecting. I'm going to make an aura and let it come down. Going to turn again, counterclockwise, coming to the next one. You can see I'm making my little dot right there. Let it come down and connect, create an aura, and connect down to this other line. Here we go again. Nice and slow, take your time, coming to this square, middle point, and then I'm making my aura and letting it come down. And there you have that really beautiful string that we're going to work with. So now that we have our string, we're going to go ahead and ink it in. I'm picking up my Micron PN pen here, and I'm just going to start to ink in my centerpiece. You can see that I'm really taking my time. And this is where you can relax and just follow your lines. You know where you're going. You can see I've got a little wiggle and wobble in my hand here, and that's okay. Coming through to the opposite side. So there's my center. And now I'm going to go in just the way that I did before. And I find that this really helps me to remember how I did a tangle. It's almost like we get to have a dress rehearsal. You can see that I'm cleaning up a little bit of that line there, which is really nice to be able to do. And just turning. So now that I have that, I can go ahead and start to let my lines connect. So you're going to just see me start to come in here. So I'm going to just go through on this side right here and let my line connect. And now I'm going to come down and let this line connect. A little wiggle and a wobble in that line, but it's okay. I'm going to turn my tile and start to do it again. Going again. And remember to soften in your shoulders. Allow yourself to breathe. So now I'm going to come in right here and do the same. Now once I've gone all the way around, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start to let it connect the other way. So you're just going to see me come in and connect in the opposite direction. Letting the line travel down and going to the opposite side. So I'm coming in, connecting. Notice how I go underneath. And then we go to the opposite side and just continuing on and inking in the lines. Take your time with this. There's no rush. Super fun, super easy. You know where you're going. And there you have it. There is our string inked in. Now you'll notice that I have not inked in the borders. We are going to break those borders. So just go ahead and finish up this part, and then when we come back, we're going to start to break those borders. Okay, so you're going to see me come in, and I'm going to start to just give this a little bit of a tip, and then I'm going to let it come back and connect. So just a really nice little, almost like a leaf-like shape at the end of these. So you can see that I can do it on the other side as well. So I'm just coming in, making a little bit of a tip, and then dropping back in and connecting. And if you want to play with the shapes, you can play with the shapes and do something else. But I was really enjoying using it as a leaf-like shape, and it will come in handy later. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that to each of these. So I'm just coming around, and this one's going to need to extend a little bit. And there you can see that I've been able to make that all the way around. So go ahead and do yours, and then when we come back, we're going to start to add our tangles into the piece. So we are going to start to build into the center here. So I'm going to add some petals to the inside, and you're going to see me turn my piece so that I'm working on the diamond here. And I'm going to come out, I would say, about midpoint of the square. So you can see that there's still the underlining point of that square, and I'm going to come to about the midpoint and just make a dot. And you'll see that I have these two lines on the side. I'm also going to come to the midpoint of those. So what this is going to look like is I'm going to make an arc and touch, and I'm going to make another arc and touch, and then I'll come out just a little bit and make an aura. And you can see that that aura is pretty similar to the auras that we have going all the way around. So I'm just going to come to the next one, and I'm going to do the same, looking for that square, and then looking for the midpoint in that square, looking for the midpoint here and here. And if you want to put a dot there just so that you know where you're landing, you can. Coming out. And you can see that by having that, place to line up, that it really brings a nice continuity up here. So using those midpoints and using the same type of aura-ing is really going to help. So I'm going to come once again to the midpoint of that square. Make a little dot here and here for my place to land. Make an aura. The aura is the echo line. And then once again, here I come, midpoint of this square right here. And then coming up. And there you can see we've got these really nice spaces in which to work with. Now, this is a great place to pause. If you've got a copy machine in your house and you want to use this template to put other tangles in, I love that idea, because then you can play as much as you want with the template and really have a good time of it. So I'm all about it. If you really want to use this template again and you don't want to go through making the string again, copy away. All right, I'll see you in a minute. We're going to start to add our tangles. The first tangle that we are going to add to this piece is called Zonked. Many of you guys know that I love this tangle. It's just one of those really fun, easy tangles that you get a real graphic feel from. And what Zonked looks like is it is a V or a triangle-like shape with an aura inside and another aura inside of that. And then what happens with Zonked is you put a little bit of weight on it and you puddle in those pieces. Puddling just means you're pooling ink into an area. And I just love how that looks. It's just got a really nice feel to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to come into the center piece here and we're going to use that for Zonked. And I'm just going to come in and make a really small little circle right into the center, and that's going to be a nice focal point. And then I'm going to come into these divisions that we have here, and let's go ahead and zoom in on that. And you're just going to see me make my first triangle. Here comes my second, and here comes my third. I'm putting weight on the tip of each triangle, and that gives it a really interesting feel. So let's go ahead and do it on the other side. Another one, and another one. Go ahead and put the weight in. And let's go ahead and do it again. Putting on the weight and moving to the next. Central point. And you can already see that that's built up a really nice feel. Now I'm going to go ahead and ink in the lines that connect to the main piece right here. And right here. Super fun, and it's going to be beautiful when we go ahead and do our shading. So go ahead, take your time, work with that, and then when we come back, we're going to add another tangle. The next tangle that we're going to be working on is actually going to be in these pieces in here and also into our regular petals. We're going to do a version of something called Braven sword. And this tangle is actually created by a friend of mine named Debbie New, and she's just a wonderful tangler. And so one of the things that I love about this tangle is that it's super easy to do. So what it is it's a line with a little dot on the top of it. And then from the bottom of the line you come up and you make a petal shape, and then when you come back down you come underneath that little circle that's right there, and then you come down and connect. And that is Braven sword, and it's a really beautiful tangle when you do it in conjunction with other leaves and whatnot, but this is how we're going to use it today. So we're going to start by coming in, and we're only going to do one Braven sword with each leaf, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So for this first one, I'm going to come into the center here, and I'm going to make a leaf-like shape that comes up over here, and then I'm going to make a leaf-like shape that comes up over here. Once I have that, now I'm going to bring up my Braven sword, and I'm going to go all the way up, and then I'm going to come down, connect, and connect. And that is going to be part of our Braven sword today. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn, and I'm going to do it again. So here we go. I'm going to come in, and I'm going to make my leaf, and I'm going to make another leaf, and then I'm going to go ahead and come up, and I'm going to make my Braven sword, come down, and connect. turning, leaf, leaf, coming up, make your Braven sword, and connect. Last one right here, leaf, Braven sword, connect, and down. Now, I have room around my Braven sword to give this a little aura. If you don't worry about it, but I'm going to give it an aura, just like so. So you're going to see me go around and create a nice aura around each. And that is going to be my Braven sword. So go ahead and finish yours. We're going to do more out here into these corners in a moment. Okay, so I'm going to come into the corners here and I'm going to do the same. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to start by creating my leaf-like pattern. Coming up, make a circle, Braven sword, and back and down. And then I'm going to go ahead and come up and make that aura again. And that's going to be it for those. So go ahead and do those 3 on your own, and then when we come back, we're going to do some puddling. One of the things that I love about working with the Micron PN pen is that it has a nice thick nib on it, so it's really easy to do this next part. Now, if you're working with an 01 or an 005, you might want to switch out and get a thicker pen for puddling. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in on this petal right here, and I'm going to come in and I'm just going to start to puddle in the ink around my tangle. And what this is going to do is it's going to give this a really nice graphic nature and just really draw your eye in towards the center of the piece. Now when you're doing this, you want to make sure that you're really going lightly on your pen. The lighter you go, the more the ink flows. So if you're pressing hard on your Micron, you're actually stopping it from doing what it needs to do. Now you can also see that my pen is going around in a almost circular like motion when I'm filling in the space, and what that does is it gives my background more of a succinct filling in rather than having scratch poking through. So you can see that I'm just working in little circles and bringing that in. And I'm just going to work my way around the sides here. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking this is a lot of puddling that we're going to be doing. Yes, but it's going to be so fabulous by the time we're all said and done, I promise. So you're going to go around each of those flowers and do that very thing. Take your time with it, enjoy what you're doing, and just get into the flow of puddling. Some people can really find a lot of zen in it because you just let your mind soften into what you're doing. Okay? All right, I'll see you in a minute. So I've gone through and I've been able to fill in my space inside of the tangle here, and I'm really pleased with the way it looks. It has a really nice graphic nature to it. So we're going to start in with another tangle here, and I'm going to go ahead and bring in my scratch piece of paper. Now, you might notice that when you are out and about, especially if you are a new Zentangler, that there are Zentangle-like shapes everywhere. And I'm a big fan of Art Deco. I love it. I think it's just beautiful. And one of the things that I love to do is I love to go onto Pinterest and check out all the things that they have on Pinterest. And so I had seen a beautiful Art Deco wing or leaf, depending on how you see it, where it just had this really beautiful feel to it. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to round these edges in here, and I'm going to come in off of this little line that I have and create more lines. So these almost look like poke leaf, which is another tangle, but I'm going to call this Deco leaf. Okay, so I'm hoping that this doesn't already exist in the Zentangle world, but that's what I'm calling it, is Deco leaf. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to come back into our tangle here, and we are going to start by coming right off of the top of these pieces in here. So you're going to just see me swing off and come back in towards it, but not touch. Swing up again and back and in. And then one more time, swing up and back and in. And that's going to connect. Let's create our little lines that are going to come off here. So you're going to see me go up, make a dot, out, make a dot, and one more. And then I'm going to pull into these little ridges right here. And you can see that that creates a really beautiful feel. Let's go ahead and do this on the other side. So I'm just swinging off, coming back in, swinging out, coming back in, one more time, and swinging back in. And you can see that I'm trying to make them similar in their size just because they're mirror image of each other. Coming out, make a dot, swinging out, make a dot, and one more time, make a dot. Go ahead and give that a little pooling. And there you can see we have that beautiful Deco leaf. So I'm going to come over to the other side and do the same again, swinging off, make that leaf-like shape, come in, thinking about that same size again, trying to keep it as congruent as you can. But remember, we're all human beings here, so we're not looking for perfection. If I wanted perfection, I could go into Target and buy myself a shower curtain with a pattern on it. I'd rather have it be handmade. So I'm just coming in, and last one right there. Coming up, make a dot, coming out, make a dot, and one more time. And let's go ahead and pull in those little areas. You're going to see me come back over to the other side and pull. So there you've got it. I've got these two done. I'm going to go ahead and finish up these two. You go ahead and do the same. So we're going to bring a new tangle into the piece here, and it's got elements of a few different tangles. So I'm going to teach it piece by piece, and the way that we're going to start it is we're going to start by doing a little bit of printemps. Printemps is just a little bit of a spiral, and it closes off. Now once we have that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to make an arc around printemps. And then up off of that arc, we're going to make a petal-like shape that's going to come out. And then on either side of that petal, we're going to start to step down and step down. Now you can come out and make another one that's fairly large and step down and step down. And that's what's going to give this such a unique kind of Art Deco flair to it. And you know me, I do love a lot of Art Deco things. They just really speak to me. So we're going to take this flower and we're going to put it into our piece here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start right up at the top here, and I'm going to do a small printemps right in here. And then you're going to see me just come up and over and close it off. Once I've got printemps in there, I'm going to do an aura right over the top. And then I'm going to start to build that flower, and you'll notice that I'm going to break the border. So I'm going to do 2 step downs here and 2 step downs here. I'll come over to the side here and build a large one coming out, and 1 step down, and here's another step down. I can make it look like there's a step down coming over on the other side. Here we go, coming up and out, and step down, and over here. And that has such a neat, unique feel to it, doesn't it? So let's go ahead and do it again. Coming over here, making our printemps, do an aura, and start to build your petals out. Stepping down twice on either side. Coming over here, making another large one, stepping down. Coming over here, making another large one, and stepping down. You can see that that builds up quite nicely. So we're going to do that in the next two over here. Go on your own and do yours, and then when we come back, we're going to bring in the bunny. Okay, so let's talk about the year of the rabbit. It's the Chinese zodiac for 2023, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a demonstration on how to build your rabbit into the corner of your piece. And you can see that I'm just making a little corner here and getting it ready. And let's go ahead and zoom in on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by building what almost looks like a snowman. So I'm going to have a little arc, and then on top of that arc I'm going to do another arc just like so. And then once I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to build rabbit ears. And then I'm going to add his little thumper legs right up on the side. So now I can come in and I can puddle, but before I puddle, I'm going to add in a little flower for his tail. And then you're going to see me just go ahead and puddle in his ears. And I know that there is a lot of puddling involved in this class, but it really just gives this such a nice graphic nature, and it's such a fun little piece. Now I'm going pretty quickly through this rabbit just to give you the idea of what's going on. I'm not being overly cautious or making sure that I'm not getting any scratch behind, just for the sake of class here. But you can see that when I start to fill in, we get our rabbit. So it's super fun and super easy. And then, of course, at the end, I love to add in his whiskers. So let's go ahead and start to build our rabbits here. So you can see that I have this wonderful corner right in here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to ink in my corner. And I want to be mindful about where my rabbit's going to be. I'm thinking about his ears and all that. So I'm just going to come up and I'm going to make the first arc. And then I'm going to make his head. And now I'm thinking about his ears. And you'll notice that his ears are actually kind of silhouetting this piece right in here. So they're kind of being a mimic line or a aura line to it. I'm going to go ahead and put in his legs. And then I'll put in his tail nice and low. And then I'm going to go ahead and puddle him in. And let's go ahead and zoom in on that so that you can really see what I'm up to. Coming over. Now you can see that I'm really taking my time with the puddling because we're in the main piece here. Little circles, puddling in, coming down. And it always amazes me what creating a shadow image can do. And in this case, what the shadow image is doing is it's taking all of the graphicness from the internal piece and bringing it to the external corners here. And that's why I added in those rabbits just to give it a little bit of continuity. And I'll put in his other leg. And now I can start to give him his whiskers. And there's our rabbit. So I'm going to go into each of my corners and start to do just that. You go ahead and do yours as well. Have fun with this. And you know, the zodiac of the rabbit is meant to be a creature that is very gentle and very thoughtful. He's a problem solver, and he also is a symbol of overcoming fear. And I really just loved him as a symbol. I thought it was just really great to have as one of our first pieces for the San Rafael Public Library this year, starting off in 2023. So go ahead and do your rabbits. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, I think it's time for color. Okay, so before we end up working with color, I realized that I forgot a step in the Deco leaf here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the Deco leaf on its side, and at the bottom of each line, I'm going to do a little bit of weighting, or putting a little bit of weight on the bottom of each of these lines, just to give it a little bit of depth. So I'm just going to come over to the other side and do the same thing, just creating a little bit of weight to give it some groundedness. So you're going to see me go around and finish these up. You go ahead and finish yours up, and then when we come back, it's color time. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with this piece here in terms of color. And I'm picking up two colors that I love to use together. This is the yellowed orange, which is PC1002, and then I also have in my hand PC118. These are both really great colors for working on the background of where the bunny is, and that's really where we're going to start with this. So you're going to see me come into the area where the bunny is in here, and you can see that my pencil is really well and sharpened up, and the reason for that is we're going to be working with large swaths of color. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by laying down that pencil on its side, and you can see the way that I'm holding the pencil. I'm holding it pretty far back and doing a soft dusting of this really nice yellow in here. And I'm being pretty mindful of the bunny and not going over him. I'm just leaving a little bit of space. And I'm just going to start to work my way through. I'm going to turn this on its side and dust that in. Now once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to let go of that yellow, and I'm going to start to bring in that cadmium orange, this really beautiful orange. And if you don't have the same colors as me, don't worry about it. Just grab similar colors. You'll be just fine. I happen to like the cadmium orange just because it's got a little bit more earthiness to it. It's almost got, I would say, a terracotta feel to it, which is really quite nice. So you can see that I'm dusting down around the corner here, and I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. I want it to look like there's a sunset in front of each of these bunnies. So I'm just dusting down. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to start to bring in that yellow. And really what I'm doing is I'm blurring out the area where the orange is meeting the yellow. And you can see that I'm just doing little circles all over where the orange was to, one, soften it out, but two, to help it kind of blend into where that bunny is. So I'm coming over to the other side and doing the same. And then I'm going to pick back up that orange and I'm going to give a little shadow around our bunny here, just to make him pop off the page a little bit. And I'm also going to let that travel up the side of the leaf to get the leaf to pop off the page a little bit. And then I'll come in and just do little circles with the yellow so that I can get that really nice, almost sunset-like feel. Now, one of the things that I like to do when I'm working on white paper is I like to pick up the white pencil. This is PC 938, and I'm going to come in and I'm just going to start to blur out my edges and start to get a softness around that bunny. And you'll find that when you work with that white, it teases the color out. It really gives it a nice blend. And so I really love to use it as a blending tool. And you can see how that has now taken that whole area and just gotten it to kind of pop off the page, which is really nice. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to start to work on our leaves. Okay, so you can see that I am going to let go of those oranges, and I'm just focusing in on this square of our piece for right now so that you can see what I'm going to be up to for the next few moments as we delve into color here. So I'm going to let go of the oranges here, and I'm going to pick up some of my greens, and in my hand I happen to have the lime peel green, which is a really nice green. This is PC 1005. And then I also have in my hand the grass green, which is PC 909. Now I'm going to come into where we have our deco leaves. Now if you are the type of person that doesn't like seeing pencil marks in your piece, you can just go ahead and erase your pencil marks just like so. Okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with that green, and I'm just going to do some really soft foundation of color inside of that leaf. So you can see that I'm just getting in there and getting that really pretty light green in both of those leaves here. And then once I have that, I'm going to come in and start to just dust down along the vein of the stem in here to get a really nice shadow. And you're going to see that it kind of comes in about halfway through the leaf here. And then I'll come back in and I'll hug that black line that's in here to get some depth. I'm going to pick up the white pencil and I'm going to start to blur out that green so that it softens up the whole piece. And you can see just by doing that how much that white pencil loves to move that color around, and especially with the foundation of the lime peel green. Now if you don't have the lime peel green, another color that would be great for this is the true green. I love to substitute true green for lime green quite a bit. You get a real interesting feel for it. So I'm going to come over here and do the same thing, so just a little dusting of the green in here, nice and soft. And then once again, I'm going to come back in and I'm going to just stay along that black line here. Give it a nice push. And then I'm picking up that white and dusting it down. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up mine, and then when we come back, we're going to start to work inside the petal of the flower in here. Have fun with this. So let's continue working with the greens here. You can see that I've had a chance to go all the way around and do the leaves on the outside edge. Let's take that green and bring it into the center so that your eye starts to travel towards the center here. So I'm going to come into where we have Zonked, and let's go ahead and zoom in on this here. I'm going to go ahead and just start to do my shading with the lighter color first. This is the lime peel green, and I'm going to be working on the side of this orb that's in the center. And you can see that I'm going to leave a little bit of a light source here on the left-hand side. Once I get a little bit of that green in there, I'm going to let go of that lime peel green, and I'm going to start to pick up the grass green. Now I'm going to go fairly lightly with the grass green in here so that I can get a really soft feel, almost like a shadow going from the outside in. So just a really nice shadow, and I love doing this kind of work over a tangle. It makes it look as though the tangle is underneath the shell of color. I'm just going to work with that a little bit. And then once I've got that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press a little bit harder on that outside edge, really start to develop the drama inside of that gemstone. Turning the tile to make it work for my hand here. And then once I've got that shadow in, I'm going to pick up that green again, that lime peel green, and I'm going to start to work backwards into where that darker green is starting to meet the lighter green and just get a really soft blend on that. And then I'll work even into the shadow itself. So just working around that. And then once I've got it to the way that I want it to be, I can pick up my white jelly roll here and I can give this a sheen to make it look as if it's a stone. So you're going to see me just come in with that white pen and create a soft sheen. And then maybe a couple of dots. And you can see that that really gives it a nice stone feel. Okay, so I'm going to let go of the greens and I'm going to start to pick up some warmer colors again. So I'm going to pick up this really nice blush pink. This is PC928, and then I'm also working with magenta, which is PC930. I'm going to start to come into the area of where Braven sword is, and we're going to add a little bit of a halo around Braven sword. So you can see that I'm coming in with a little bit of that pink and just starting to work right around the Braven sword. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up some of that magenta and start to dust the edges of the pink in here to give that a little bit of drama. You can see that my pencils are pretty well sharpened up because we're working in such a small area here. I'm coming back in with the blush pink and I'm going to blur that out so that it has a really nice progression. So go ahead and go around all of your Braven sword and do just that. I'm going to continue to use those colors here, and we're going to start to work up into this flower that's right in here. So let's just come up towards that. Now I'm not going to put the pink in these main petals of the flower, but I am going to put it in the smaller ones. And you're going to see that I'm going to start to dust in a little bit of that flower in here with the pink, and then I'll come back in with a little bit of that magenta right down towards the bottom here, just to bring in a little bit of the drama. I'll come back with a little bit of that pink and blur it out so that we get a really nice progression. And I'm going to do that in each of these flowers that we have here. Now, if you want to carry your pink up towards the top edges of these little petals, you're welcome to do that. It'll give it a little bit more spice and a little bit more interest. Okay, so go ahead and have fun with those, and then when we come back, we're going to start to pick up our yellow again. Okay, so I've picked back up the yellow and the orange here, and I'm coming back to this tangle called La Fleur, and I've got the yellowed orange in my hand, and I'm just going to add little bits of the yellowed orange into La Fleur here. And that's just going to give this a little bit of a pop, and it'll have a nice contrast off of that pink. And not only that, it's a really nice correlation with what's going on over here. So you can see that I'm going around to each of these and giving it that little treatment. Now, once I've had a chance to go all the way around, at the bottom of the petals here, I'm going to dust in a little bit of that orange. So you're going to see me just come in with a little bit of that cadmium orange. And then when I've had a chance to get it in there, I'm going to blur it out with a little bit of that orange, or rather the first yellow that we were working with. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to do mine, and then when we come back, we're going to take some of that color and bring it inward. And let's continue to use this yellowed orange in here. I'm going to come back into Braven Sword here and start to dust in with a yellow orange. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just at the base of Braven Sword add a nice shadow right where the two leaves are starting to meet the Braven Sword. I'll come in with a little bit of that yellowed orange, and let's go ahead and zoom in on that here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a little bit of that yellowed orange to it to soften it up. Now you could even pick up some of your white and dust that in there just to get it to soften a little bit more and to have a highlight in there, which is really pretty. So I'm going to go around and do all of mine. You go ahead and do yours. So we are going to pick up our Micron P pens for a moment, and we're going to start to ink in the border around our piece. And you're going to see that I'm just going to be coming in around where the La Fleur is and closing that border up. So I'm just going in and closing it up so that it lines up with the outside. And I love it because it looks like the flower is bursting out of the piece, which is nice. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to La Fleur, and I'm going to do a dusting of the black ink into that aura that we have. Now you'll notice that I'm not being perfectionistic with it. At the top, I'm leaving a little bit of a light source up there. And I'm going to go around to all of my La Fleurs and do the same thing. And you can see that that really brings a nice element of graphicness to it, and it plays into where the rabbit is, it plays into where the star is. It's really quite nice. So I'm just going to continue to go around and add that little bit of white up at the top of La Fleur just to give it a little bit of pop. So go ahead and do yours, and then when we come back, we're going to start to work with some graphite. So before we pick up the graphite, I am going to add a pop of blue into the piece, and this is really just going to help the whole piece have a little bit of gravity to it. So let's come back up to the area where La Fleur is, and I'm going to do this one right here. So I'm going to come in with a little bit of my favorite color here. This is the light aqua, and this is PC 992, and I'm just going to dust in a little bit of that light aqua right in around where La Fleur is, just to give it a pop of the unexpected. And I'm going to come and press a little bit harder right along the edge here. Now you can pick up your white pencil and just do a little bit of blurring there so that you don't get a strong line of demarcation, but that's just going to give that a really nice pop. If you wanted to come in with an even darker color, you could come in with a navy on those edges, and that would bring a little bit more drama to it, but I think I'm okay with just a little bit of the light aqua. So go ahead and do that around your LaFleur. Okay, so here we are. And what we're going to do is we're going to start to create some shadows inside of our piece here. We're going to start with the Braven sword first, and I've got my graphite pencil in my hand, and I also have a tortillon in my hand. If you don't have a tortillon, you can always grab a little Q-tip, and that will work in lieu of it. Or you can pick up your gray Prisma pencil and your white pencil and do the same technique. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here where the Braven sword is, and I'm going to start by coming in and just doing a soft dusting of that gray into those petals here. And I'll bring that gray and go ahead and blur it out a little bit with my tortillon. And you can do the same thing with the Q-tip, and then I'll come back and I will bring in a little bit of darkness right in towards the center. Now once I have that, I'll go around to all of my leaves and do just that. So you can see that using that gray is such a great equalizer in this piece. I really love it. It just really tones down the whole thing and gives it a little bit of continuity. So I'm going to come into this area right up at the top here, and you can see that I have those overlapping pieces in here. So I'm going to create a little bit of a shadow in the piece that looks like it's underneath, and then I'll pick up my tortillon and I will blur it out a little bit. And I'm going to go around to each one of these and start to do that. So you're going to see me come around and do a little bit of blurring right up at the top to create that shadow. And it really does make it look like it is over the top of that. So go ahead and do yours, and I'm going to finish up mine. I'm going to add a little bit more shading down at the bottom of my petals in here just to give this a little bit more interest, and I'll show you what I mean. So I'm talking about the petals that are in the background. You're going to see me come in and just add a little bit of graphite down at the bottom of each of these petals in here. And once I have that, I'll pick up the tortillon and do a little bit more of that blending and shading here. And then I'm also going to come back in and do just a little bit more of a heavy shadow right in here. Now I always do this graphite work at the very end so that I don't end up contending with the graphite and wearing it on my hands. So this is a really nice time to be doing this kind of shading. So you're going to see me go around and I'll finish up those as well. So I won't be working in the central one, just in the background petals. So have fun with yours, and I'll see you in a minute. So the final place where we are going to add a little bit of graphite is up into the floor again. So we're going to come back up to the floor, and I'm going to come in with a little bit of that graphite, and I'm just going to dust half of it with the graphite here. I'll press a little bit harder towards the outside edge to get a little bit of a shadow, and then I'm going to come in and I'm going to blend the whole thing out. Now you'll notice that I'm leaving a little bit of white right in there. That's to give this a little bit of contrast, so you want to make sure that you keep that white in there. So I'm going to go around to all of the LaFleurs and do just that. Have fun with yours. I've picked up my Micron PN pen one more time here, and I'm going to come into the center of Braven sword, and I'm going to black in those central little circles inside a Braven sword. So you're going to see me come around and blacken those in here and here. just to give it a little bit more pop. And then I'm going to also add a nice dot right into the outside of these outer petals in here. Just a little bit of interest into those petals. I just like the way that that looks. I think it gives it a little bit more pizzazz, if you will. You can even come into these leaves here if you want to and add a little bit of a line and a dot just to give those some interest as well. I'm going to go ahead and do that in mine. So go ahead and do yours, and then when we come back, we're going to do some last minute finishing touches. Okay, so I'm really enjoying the way this one came out. You know, every time I come back and do a piece, it's always different. And so I don't know why I'm always surprised, but I am. And this one I was pleasantly surprised with. I really enjoyed it. So I want to talk about the bunny tails just for a moment. You know, sometimes those get a little bit lost when you're pooling in your ink. And so I've picked back up my white pen here. And if you want to make your bunny tails a little bit more pronounced, you can come back in with your white ink and just add a dab of the white ink into the bunny tails just to give them a little bit more definition, if you will. So you can see that I'm just going around and doing mine. And so if you feel like you need to add a little bit more to your bunny tail, go ahead and do so. Now I'm also going to take that white and just add a spark of it right into the Braven sword. So you're going to see me just come through and add a little bit of spark into the center of Braven's sword, right where that little piece of, I guess you could call it a pollinator, and just adding a little bit of white in there. So that gives that a little bit of interest as well. So this is feeling pretty good to me. I hope it's feeling nice for you on your page. So I'm going to add my chop into this here, and I like to hide my chop, so I'm just going to come in right down here and add my initial, which is my chop. And that just indicates that I have finished with the piece and I'm ready to let it go. I'm going to bring in my original here, and you can see the difference between the two. Every time I come back and do them, they're always slightly different. This one's got a little bit more depth and color, where this one is a little bit lighter in its presentation. So every time it's always going to be a little bit different. So I hope you enjoyed the class. Happy Year of the Rabbit to you. I hope this year is a little bit more gentle, a little bit more reflective, and brings you a lot of peace. I'm Rami Marks, your Tangled Yogi. Thanks for joining me today, and I'll hope to see you soon.